Disclaimer, this video is primarily talking about formal table etiquette in the US, so what I talk about here may or may not fully apply to you depending on where you live. Will you ever use this information anyways? Maybe. But if you ever end up at a dinner party with 64 different forks you don't know how to use, you'll, maybe thank me. I don't know, 2 years of cotillion, 3 years of supper club, and God knows how many years of being in a volunteer organization with a heavy emphasis on etiquette does to a man is give them an irrational anger when people eat their dinner rolls like a Subway foot long. By utensils, I mean everything that you have at the table in front of you that you will be using to eat. Now, imagine all your dishes are confined in a rectangle in front of you. None of your dishes go outside that rectangle, and none of your neighbor dishes go inside yours. This is a fundamental thing a lot of people don't understand, and has caused my bread and my bread plate to be literally stolen from me on occasion. Screw you, random blonde woman, I'm still really mad about that. So even if you forget what's yours and what belongs to your neighbor, just remember that all the utensils are balanced in a rectangle around your plate. For example, your bread plate is in the upper left of your plate. In the center is your charger. Sometimes. This looks like a plate, but don't be fooled by its tricky illusions. It's actually your plate for your plate. It can be gold, silver, whatever. Just remember it's much larger than a regular plate and it's only there for decorative purposes and so the tablecloth doesn't get dirty. On that note, please don't eat off the charger. It's not built for eating. Best case scenario, the place doesn't fully clean them after the last guy used it, so you're eating off a dirty surface. And worst case scenario, you get raw Rasputin because the plate on the charger has toxins and are not safe for consumption. Anyways, to the left of your charger or plate are your forks, and to the right are your knives and spoons. They're placed in the order of when you will use them, so all you have to do is work outside in and use 2 brain cells to figure out what you need to effectively eat a salad. Although, depending on the meal, the knife will be closer to the plate than the spoon, even if you use it first. So just use your best judgment and think, maybe I don't need a spoon to eat a chicken breast. Above your charger or plate are your dessert utensils. Except I lied, actually. The spoon isn't usually for dessert, it's actually for the tea or coffee that is often offered or served with dessert. To the right of your dessert utensils are your drinks, usually just water, and to the left is your bread plate and bread knife. Sometimes it's placed above the charger to keep people from being dumb and stealing my freaking bread! In the event that you are as unfortunate as me, use the left side of your dinner plate for bread. The bread will usually be passed around to the right along with butter. Why right? Because most people are right-handed and that means you'll pass it to their left hand and they can take the bread or whatever in their dominant hand. All dishwashing works this way unless everyone has been served, in which case you can just pass it the fastest way. If the guy to your left wants more salad dressing, you would only pass it to the right around the whole table if everyone there really hates that guy. When I was learning this at supper club, everyone at the table I was at, other than me, all knew each other, and 4 supper times I did the long way around thing to this one guy. Was it hilarious? Absolutely, no question. Not recommended for most occasions though, don't let me give you any ideas. The napkin goes in your lap. Occasionally all your utensils will be rolled in a napkin instead of already on the table. Regardless, you unfold it in your lap. If there are utensils, you put them in their respective spots and then keep the napkin in your lap. Look at me. Look into my eyes. This may sound weird like a lot of these customs, but I absolutely guarantee you that everything that sounds dumb or weird is to avoid the earth-shattering catastrophe of getting food on your nice clothing or on the tablecloth that probably definitely needs to be dry cleaned. Oh my god, dude. I need you to channel your inner Discord moderator for a minute and avoid washing your dry clean only clothes as long as possible because you don't even want to know how pricey getting something fully dried clean is. A full suit is like 30 buckaroos. You could get a Persona game on sale with that money. I'm getting off topic. Napkin goes in your lap, so spilt food goes on napkin and not on your clothes. Anyways, if you're worried you'll have a hard time remembering where each utensil goes, here's how I remember it. Sorry lefties, this doesn't apply to you and your ink-covered wrists and smudged handwriting. The fork is the only utensil you ever hold in your non-dominant hand. I'll elaborate more on this later. So that's why it's the only one to the left. You always hold a knife and spoon in your dominant hand, so they go to the right. The knife is always closer to the plate than the spoon and facing towards the charger or the plate because it is completely possible to accidentally cut your arm or sleeve on the knife. I've seen it happen. It sucks. Does all that make sense? No? Cool. Alright, Sweaty, you're on your own. For the purpose of simplicity, I'm just going to go over the classics. Steak knife, spoon, and the fork. There's other stuff too, but none of it you'll see often enough to where it's important for me to talk about here. There's 2 ways to hold a fork, American style and continental style. Like most things Americans do, it's objectively worse than what's done everywhere else in the world, and the only reason you're learning about it now is because Americans will give you a hard time if you don't conform to their silly little customs. And by Americans I mean old people. I don't think I've ever actually met anyone my age that genuinely cares about US versus continental style. Probably because people don't even know there is a difference, but who cares, am I right? We're just going to let people eat steak like they're gluttonous medieval kings and steal other people's bread, because eating the last bowl of garlic herb bread off my plate after I put it on my plate is completely acceptable! Most people just pick one of the methods and stick with it because they both work fine, I guess. Honestly, when it comes to knives, you'll probably get more weird looks from younger peers for using American style, but I digress. American style prongs face up and you hold the fork like a pencil. You keep the fork steady by having it rest on your middle finger and the knuckle of your index finger and maneuver it with your index finger and thumb. Continental style is when you have the prongs ascending downwards and holding it by having the main fork rest on your middle finger, resting your index finger on the spine of the fork, and putting your thumb to the side of it. Again, in my experience, no one cares which one you do. Personally, out of habit, I do American while eating with just a fork, but if I'm cutting with a knife, then I find Continental more comfortable. Spoons are pretty much the same universally. Hold it like a pencil, similar to forks American style, and you're good. When actually using it, you always want to scoop away from yourself. Like, if you're eating soup, you want the spoon to go towards the center of the table and not towards you. That way you don't accidentally splash yourself. Remember that getting a full suit of dry, clean clothes costs as much as 6 copies of Among Us. Pick your battles. As for knives, you always hold them kinda like continental forks. Blade goes down, rest your thumb on the edge of the handle, and your index finger along the spine of it. Your middle finger rests to the opposite side of the knife as your thumb, and the end of the handle tucks into your palm. What does change, however, is how you use the knife. Continental style is when you slice the knife with your right hand and just eat the food with your fork while it's still in your left hand. American style is to slice with your right hand, and when you have your piece, put the knife down, swap the fork into your right hand, and then eat it. This is why the British hate us and how American spies got caught during World War II. The more you know. For less formal dinners or events, nobody cares how you eat. Hell, if I start cutting something American style, I think my friends would publicly execute me. If you're with people you don't know or are more picky about this kind of thing, then just stick with the tried and true method of, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So if you're in America, put up with some of the most annoying ways to eat of all time. And if you're not in America, how's it feel to be free? How's it feel to have the wind in your hair and breathe the cool, crisp air? Does it feel nice? Do you feel alive? Because I sure do! I love Red 40. Send me a postcard! If you're at a more upscale event, or one that's for anything other than socializing, then there's a solid chance you're going to be served by waiters. Sometimes you'll have trays of food given to your table, in what case you apply the pass to the right rule to distribute your food. Always take less than you think you want. There's no shame in getting seconds, so long as everyone gets their first helping. I've been in the situation where you see something that looks really good but tastes nasty, and then you're in the awkward place of feeling obligated to finish the food since you got so much, but you hate it and can't bring yourself to swallow anymore, and now you just want to explode right there on the spot. Don't do that to yourself. Sample everything first, get a mountain of mac and cheese later. You don't get the Thanksgiving treatment most of the time though. Usually the waiter will directly place a plate of food down in front of you. The only thing you have to remember here is how to use your utensils properly, and that when you're done with your plate and you're ready for the next course, place your utensils together with the handles facing you and tilted to the right at 420 position. Though if you have to take a particularly long time to info dump about the history of Dark Souls, then you can signal to your waiter to not take away your plate by placing your fork and knife to make an A shape. Another important thing is how and when to call your waiter. Firstly, and more importantly, how do you get the waiter to your table? No, you don't snap at them, you don't raise your hand straight up like a first grader who was just promised candy for answering your math problem correctly, and you do not shout at the waiter. You sit there, slightly raise your hand politely, and make eye contact, and if they walk past you, you say, "Excuse me," like the respectful, starving little Victorian child you are. Why call a waiter? There's a lot of reasons, but the big ones are if you need more water and the server hasn't been coming by a lot for that, to request the bill if there is one, ask questions about the menu, and if you dropped one of the utensils and need a new one, etc, etc. Again, just use your best judgment here. At a majority of events you will go to, especially larger or more social ones, your food will be at a buffet rather than served to you. Typically a speaker or host will announce that the buffet is open and you can get your food whenever, or that your specific table/group can go to the buffet. Insert list of important things to remember here. Hold your plate in one hand with the napkin under it. Your thumb should be on top of it with all your fingers resting on the bottom. When getting your food, avoid overfilling your plate, especially if you're at a standing event where you'll be walking around while eating. Same rules apply for this as the Thanksgiving method. There's no shame in seconds. Sample first, become the world record holder for most amount of corn dogs eaten in a 6-hour period later. Whenever you have food on your plate, you must always have at least 2 points of contact with the plate at all times. Hold it with 2 hands, put it on a table, hold it with one hand and rest on your leg while you do something with the other hand, put it on your lap and hold it with one of your hands. It does not matter. Just 2 points of contact at all times with either a body part or a piece of furniture. Last thing you want to do is drop your food, especially on you or someone else. When serving your own food, always look for serving utensils on the table. Never assume you must pick something up from the serving table with your hands, even if you see other people do it. Tongs, spoons, something, man, just don't spread the plague. I'll reiterate this. Never overfill your plate at a buffet, especially if you're at a standing social event. When you do, you automatically lose one of the best outs to a conversation you don't want to be in. Talking with some friends that guy you really hate rolls out to the conversation, say you're going to get more food at the buffet. Do you really want to leave an event but that one guy won't stop talking to you and you don't know how to end the conversation? Say you're going to get more food at the buffet. Need to excuse yourself from a group in any way? Say you're going to get more food at the buffet. This is the greatest power I can bestow upon you. Use it wisely. To review from chapter 1, when sitting down to eat, you want the napkin they gave you to go on your lap to avoid getting food on you. Additionally, you want to work outside in with the utensils. If you're having a 3-course meal and are given 3 forks, 2 to the side and 1 to the top, you would use the outermost fork for the first course, the innermost fork for the second, and the one at the top for dessert. Those 2 things plus how you use utensils will most likely be the important things that you should pull away from this video, but here are a few more niche things that you may encounter. If you're given a bowl with warm water, perhaps without a lemon, it's probably because you ate something with your hands. You're supposed to rinse off your fingers in this, please for the love of God do not shrink it. If you're given a suspicious mesh bag with a lemon or some other squeezable fruit in it, it's actually Pandora's box, and you shouldn't open it unless you wish to release the sins of humanity upon this world. Instead, squeeze the lemon from inside the bag to let the delicious sorrows and disease trapped inside the box go onto your food without any of the seeds. Keep hope in the box. Tipping isn't big in other countries, but in the US it's considered disrespectful to the employees to not tip at a restaurant. Dumb rule, yes, I didn't make it. If you aren't paying for the food at the venue though, like if you're at a convention center for a event or buffet, then you're usually free from the shackles of some of the worst employee payment culture of all time. If you're tipping though, usually 15 to 20% is standard, but if your waiter is really good, then it's kind of some additional money. Not a niche thing, but this one's actually kind of important. To me specifically, but you're also going to encounter this one pretty much everywhere. How you actually are supposed to eat bread is by tearing a single, relatively small bite-sized piece off, buttering that piece individually, and then eating it all cutie patootie style. This avoids from getting crumbs on you, keeps you from having to talk with your mouth full of food, and also prevents you from personally annoying the crap out of me. Okay, so overall you won't have to worry about tea etiquette at all unless you're like me and have to go to a lot of afternoon tea events because of a certain organization you're affiliated with, but I'm going to talk about it anyways because I get just as peeved about tea etiquette as I do about my bread being stolen. Because this isn't something that people are going to deal with a lot of the time, I'm just going to try and be a little more concise. So there are 2 types of tea events. High tea, which is a full early dinner that's served with tea, and afternoon tea, which is more your stereotypical tea party. Most of the time you're going to have to deal with afternoon tea, so that's why I'll talk about it. But most of the stuff described here and in previous chapters also applies to high tea. Afternoon tea has 3 courses, starting at savory and getting closer to sweet with each course. Typically the kind of stuff you'll get is some tea sandwiches, scones, and then various desserts in that order. Nothing is set in stone as to how you are to get your food. Sometimes it's a buffet, sometimes it's served to you, sometimes it's a bunch of sweets and sandwiches on a platter and you have to fight to the death for the best ones where your opponents are Kirby reincarnate. If you were paying attention to chapter 1, then pretty much all the table setting rules from there apply here. Main thing to remember is that you have your big plate in the middle with your food on it. You won't usually put food on the saucer, which is the smaller plate to the left or upper left where your teacup will go. I say not usually because there are some cases where maybe your table hasn't gotten their plates yet, but people are already passing around scones. In which case, yeah, you can put the scone on the saucer and the charger or, God forbid, the tablecloth. Anyways, you can tell a saucer is a saucer because it's much smaller than your main plate and has a rim at the bottom for the teacup so it doesn't slip around. The teacup and saucer go to the right of your main plate and any utensils you were provided with the handle facing 3 o'clock if you're right-handed and 9 if you're left-handed. If you have one of those cute frilly paper things, that's called a dolly and they go on top of the saucer but below your teacup. There's 2 different ways to hold a cup depending on the kind. If it's a coffee cup, you use your pointer finger to loop through the handle and place your thumb at the top. If it's a teacup, you pinch your index finger and thumb together through the handle's hole. Support the bottom of the handle with your middle finger, almost like you're making a heart. Additionally, you can use your pointer finger and middle finger on the other hand to support the bottom of the cup. Please take note how throughout none of this did I mention you should stick your pinky out. Please, for my sake, never, ever stick your pinky out while drinking tea. You'll probably accidentally drop the cup because sticking your pinky out messes with the balance of you holding it, and dude, you don't even want to know how expensive a good tea set is. You could buy 40 copies of Among Us with that money. When it comes to the saucer, so long as you're sitting down, pretend it's glued to the table. If you need to get up or the host is pouring you tea, then you hold the cup normally with your dominant hand and hold the saucer with your non-dominant hand. The host won't always pour you tea though. Sometimes it's just in the middle of the table and it gets passed around to pour yourself. In this case, you want to get a tight grip on the pot and hold down the finial. If you're being served loose leaf tea, then use a straightener when pouring the tea. Sometimes you have your own, sometimes one's being passed around the table, just press on top of the cup and pour like normal. Tea bags are a little less formal, but still a good option. You put the tea bag in your cup and pour hot water on top of it. After it's done steeping, rest the tea bag to the side of your teacup and push out any additional moisture with your spoon. Then put it on the discard plate or your saucer. You stir your tea by using the spoon on your saucer and holding it like a pencil. After you put the hot liquid and any other add-ins like milk, lemon, sugar, etc., mix it together by sifting the spoon from the top of the teacup to the bottom. Try to avoid any kind of clinking, scratching, tapping, or the spoon against the cup or saucer, since they're super easy to tip and break. Again, may I remind you, the price. Once you're finished, put the spoon back on the saucer, again, without clinking it against the teacup. Coincidentally, all of this is great advice if you're making hot chocolate at midnight and are trying really hard not to wake up your family. Bonus info speed round. Number 1, you're given a discard plate that you can put lemon rides, tea bags, and other trash on. If you don't get this, put the trash on your saucer at 11 o'clock position. Number 2, try the tea before adding stuff to it. Sometimes it's perfectly fine and then you just ruin the tea for yourself. Number 3, don't do the claw. This is when you pick up any glass, not just teacups, by the mouth. You look like you're about to perform some unethical medical practices, which I mean, that might be the vibe you're going for. But you're still putting your grubby hands all over the mouth of the cup. We may be doing medical malpractice, but we don't spread the plague around here. I know I yapped a lot in this video, but there are 3 big things I want you to walk away with. What do I do if I'm given 64 different forks at a fancy event? You work outside in. Start with the furthest fork from the plate, and with each course, use the next leftmost fork. If you're also given a spoon and a knife, use your best logic as to when to use them. Obviously, don't use a spoon if you're given a salad, and don't use a fork or a knife when given a soup. If you're ever lost, look what the host, or in a pinch, what other people at your table are doing. Every weird standard at fancy events 99% of the time exists to avoid getting food on anything expensive that's not designed for food. Your clothing, the tablecloth, the floor, etc. Additionally, every weird standard at tea parties 99% of the time exists to avoid breaking the really expensive tea sets. So long as you do things with the intention of trying to make as little mess as possible to clean up later, you'll automatically be following a lot of the things I said in this video. Most importantly, all your utensils are contained within a rectangle around your plate. At the very least, remember the basic gist of what's yours and what isn't, because if one more person eats bread off my plate, bread they watched me put down, I am ending up on the news. It is all over for all of you!